Bhatta. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went on the South Indian tour, he stayed at their place, at Venkata Bhatta's place, and that's when Gopal Bhatta Goswami, he was a little child, he got inspired, and later on he became Gopal Bhatta Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, direct disciples of Lord Chaitanya. And Gopal Bhatta Goswami's life is very inspiring, and he's Gaur Kumar Prabhu's Gopal Bhatta Goswami is very close to Gaur Kumar Prabhu's heart. I know that. So we should invite him to speak sometime about Gopal Bhatta Goswami's life. So it's very inspiring. He's one of the Manjaris in the spiritual world of Golok Vrindavan. And he had many illustrious disciples, one of whom was Srinivas Acharya. So yeah, really fortunate on this day that we are discussing Bhagavatam. So yeah, let's start with prayers, I guess. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namahum Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam panghum langhayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Yes, so we are continuing with the prayers of Gajendra, the glorious elephant who was King Indradyumna in his previous life, who was caught by the crocodile by the leg, and he looked for all other avenues of protection, but none of the people around him, none of his family members, no one could do anything. And that's when that trauma of being so close to death, the trauma of suffering, actually invoked his past remembrance, the impressions, the spiritual impressions that he had as a devotee of the Lord, as King Indradyumna. And then he starts composing very beautiful prayers. And we are currently in that section. And the last verse that we had studied last time was where he says that, not only liberate me from this crocodile, but also liberate me from ignorance, right? I am an elephant's body covered externally and internally by ignorance. So please give me liberation from ignorance. And that is what we actually pray before any spiritual discussion when we say Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya, right? Prabhupada quotes that verse here. So we pray that the darkness of ignorance be removed, and that the Guru is giving us a chance to remove the darkness of ignorance by practicing bhakti. So we are grateful for that, and then we offer our respects to the Guru. So this with this background in mind, we'll just dive into the verses, very beautiful verses and purports. So yeah, I think we can start with Vrinda Gopi Mataji, if you don't mind.
Okay, Prabhu, yeah, I can start. Sorry, I'm not good with the Sanskrit.
Sure, no worries. Yeah.
So verse 8.3.26, translation. Now fully desiring release from material life, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the Supreme Person who is the creator of the universe, who is himself the form of the universe and who is I'm so sorry. Who's the creator of the, who himself is the form of the universe and who is none other than transcendental to the cosmic manifestation. He is the supreme knower of everything in this world, the super soul of the universe. He is unborn, supremely situated Lord. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. But sometimes when Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness is preached to the common man, people argue, where is Krishna? Where is God? Can you show him to us? In this verse, the answer is given that if we are sufficiently intelligent, we must know that there is someone who has created the entire cosmic manifestation, who has supplied and has become the ingredients for this cosmic manifestation is eternally existing, but who is not within the cosmic manifestation. Simply on the basis of this suggestion, one can offer respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord. This is the beginning of devotional life.
Please, any reflections if you have, Mataji, share with us.
Okay, Prabhu. So I just see, I want to go back to the translation and see why they were referring to. Okay. Yeah, so I think here, like, again, this is very interesting because we do hear this a lot. Oh, where is God? Where is Krishna? How can you have so much faith in him? But I like how beautifully they have explained. Like, I think even last time we were discussing that he's everything, but he himself remains, he doesn't participate in any of the functioning. His energies does everything. His energies do everything, but still he's the cause of all causes. So similarly, even here it's said, and this one, like, because they have described it how he's sort of the part or the seed in everything. That's why whether or not we see like Krishna in his, in the Murlidhar form or anything, we can feel his presence everywhere because he is he's just created everything, and the fact that this entire universe is working, that just signifies that he's there. But honestly, what after reading this, I felt this is a very of course we can relate to it, but this is a very nice and like more intelligence-based understanding for someone who's just starting their journey. And that's what even it's written in the last line. So yeah, I think it's a very good answer whenever we're having discussions with someone or someone who's very new, just to explain them the basics. And when the faith is, I think in Shubhalas Prabhuji's one lecture he gave at Bhakti Center, he said like intelligence versus faith. So this is where I think the intelligence part comes, and we can just explain people this. Yeah.
Very nice points, Mataji. Yeah, this is in a way technical because there is devotion definitely, but then one of the aspects of the devotion is glorification, and then that Gajendra is praying, is glorifying the Lord as being all-pervading, as the creator of the universe, as the supreme knower, etc., etc. So yeah, very nice. And then I had also read elsewhere that those people who are enamored by greatness, right? Anyone and everyone, we are enamored by greatness, right? Of course, when we become devotees, our definition of greatness changes, but those who are there, in those who are still not in the path, on the spiritual path, their definitions of greatness are different than ours, right? So just so okay, I'll do a small quiz. So yeah, for them, those who feel greatness is great, for them, this is a nice way to start their bhakti journey. When they see that, yes, this is when they see in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna displayed his universal form, then they see that, wow, Krishna is not only great, but he is now displaying his greatness to Arjuna, and bewildering Arjuna to such an extent that Arjuna forgets all his sakhya with Krishna, and he starts offering obeisances and praying to Krishna, asking for forgiveness. And as a friend, I might have made fun of you. As a friend, I might have lied down before next to you, and spoken with you informally. Please forgive me and everything. And then he's eventually can't take it, and then he requests Krishna to display his two-armed form. So yeah, uh, definitely this is like a nice starting point, which can slowly but surely take us to Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena, where one sees everything around him in connection with the Supreme in a spirit of devotion. So we were speaking about greatness. So what is a devotee's definition of greatness? Can anyone say? It's a very famous statement. What is greatness? Or how can someone's greatness be estimated?
Being servant of servant. Again, like having that mood, genuine mood. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
By their
See that,
ability to tolerate provoking situations.
yeah, yeah. So both the answers are precise. And then in when one advances in bhakti, the our greatness, definition of greatness changes, and we feel that the best thing is to become the servant of the servant. That is the greatest, I guess, treasure or wealth that one can have. And yeah, and for someone who is new, right? For someone who is new, we can tell this definition of greatness that Prabhupada told. And my brother is usually very skeptical about everything, about this bhakti and everything. But then I asked him one day, do you know how Prabhupada defines greatness? Then he asks me, tell me how does he define? Because when you say greatness, people suddenly their radar becomes active, right? They'll ask, okay, greatness. So then I told him that, Prabhupada defines greatness as the ability to tolerate provoking situations. So the more a person can do that, the greater he is. And then he suddenly went into thought, because this actually is a very, very inclusive definition. It's a very, very specific definition, but it's a very difficult stage to achieve. So yeah, greatness is very different. And as devotees, we experience that when we see others. And dasanudas is actually in that this ability to tolerate provoking situations is like inclusive in that. Because when we feel that we are the servant of the servant of the servant, that time we will orient our life in a way that we can serve Krishna, serve the Vaishnavas, right? And then whatever provoking situations come, we will not kind of waver, right? So at least we should not waver. I waver a lot, but yeah, I think Krishnan Prabhu raised his hand. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I think those are very beautiful definitions. Ability to tolerate provoking situations,
Yeah.
and dasana das, both are beautiful definitions. And I
Yeah.
also, I wanted to go back to the point that Vrinda Gopi Mataji was saying,
Mhm.
because by reading this purport, the one thing that came to my mind was, sometimes, when we aspire to be devotees, and at least here I'm talking about myself, we want to understand everything before we can commit to something. And here, at least what I'm reading that Srila Prabhupada is telling me is that sometimes you have to you have to start somewhere. There is a beginning to devotion life, and that is by acknowledging that there is, the Lord has created this entire cosmic manifestation, and He supplied everything that that we see around us, and gradually we will progress in knowing God and learning about God. You can't know and learn about God unless you get on the path to know and learn about God. So I thought I'll just share my realization.
Yeah, definitely. Very true. We have to put that initial faith, little faith. That is actually the stage of Adho Shraddha. That is where spiritual life begins. Adho Shraddha tatha sadhu sangota bhajana kriya. So yeah, we have to put some faith, and the analogy of like directions. When you go somewhere and you don't know the place, and then you take directions to go somewhere from someone, that person will tell you, take this route, take this, turn left, go straight, turn right, etc., etc. And then that person might explain to you, okay, when you go straight, you will see this particular petrol pump there. Okay, then you take a right from there, then you go ahead, you will see traffic lights. Okay, then take a left from there, you will see something else. So you haven't reached your destination yet, but then you put that little faith on the person. Initially you started your journey, you walked straight, then you saw the petrol pump, then you say that, okay, this person was right. Your faith increases a little, then you take a right turn, then you see the traffic light, your faith increases even more. So that is how spiritual life works, that we put initial little faith, and then that faith actually expands and expands, and then we realize the absolute truth eventually. So Gaur Kumar Prabhu, you wanted to share something?
I just wanted to share one quick point, Prabhu. I just wanted to draw a parallel between this verse and Queen Kunti's prayers. So Queen Kunti says that over a series of verses, she says that whenever obstacles come in our lives, the three things that we should remember is that Krishna, our God, is all powerful. That's the first thing. And then he's all knowing, which is what is there in this verse. And the last and the most important thing is he's all loving. So he's all powerful in the sense that he can remove any obstacle in our life. And then you might immediately question that, oh, but I'm just such an insignificant person. Will he know about me? Then that is answered by the next thing, that he's all knowing. Okay, he's all knowing, he's all powerful. But what about me? I mean, I've done so many mistakes. But the last one answers that by saying that Krishna is all loving. So whenever obstacles hit me, I remember these 3 points, that Krishna is all powerful, all knowing, and all loving, and immediately I find solace and shelter. So just wanted to share that.
Beautiful. This also goes along the lines of Sat Chit Ananda. Sat is, does it go? All powerful is not exactly Sat, but all knowing is definitely Chit, and all loving is Ananda, bliss, that way. So
yeah, and this continues in terms of our attachments. If we get attached to anything here in this material world, then it is Asat, Achit, and Nirananda. But then if we transfer the same attachment to Krishna, then it becomes Satchitananda. So it's a continuation of what I was saying. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you everyone for sharing your reflections. Moving ahead, Nityakeshwari Mataji, if you can.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yoga randita karmano hridi yoga vibhavite yoginayam prapashyanti yogesham tam natosmi aham. Translation and purport. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme, the Super Soul, the Master of all mystic yoga, who is seen in the core of the heart by perfect mystics when they are completely purified and freed from the reactions of fruitive activity by practicing Bhakti Yoga. Purport. The king of the elephants, Gajendra, simply accepted that there must be someone who has created the cosmic manifestation and has supplied its ingredients. This should be admitted by everyone, even the most determined atheist. Why then do the non-devotees and atheists not admit this? The reason is that they are polluted by the reactions of their fruitive activities. One must be freed from all the dirt accumulated within their heart due to fruitive activities performed one after another. One must wash off this dirt by practicing Bhakti Yoga. Yoga Randita Karmanaha. As long as one is covered by material nature's modes of ignorance and passion, there is no possibility of understanding the Supreme Lord. Tada rajas tamo bhava kama lobha dayas chayad. When one is freed from the modes of ignorance and passion, one becomes freed from the lowest qualities, kama, lobha, lust and greed. Nowadays, there are so many yoga schools to encourage people in developing their lusty desires and greed through the practice of yoga. People are therefore very much fond of the so-called yoga practice. The actual practice of yoga, however, is described here. And authoritatively stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 12.13.1, Dhyana vashtita tadgatena manasa pashyanti yam yogina. A yogi, one who is always meditates on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. A yogi is one who always meditates on the lotus feet of Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is also confirmed in Brahma Samhita 5.38. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santa sadeva hrideshu vilokayanti yam sham sundaram achintya guna swarupam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shama Sundara, Krishna himself, with innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. The Bhakti Yogi constantly says Shama Sundara, beautiful Lord Krishna, with his blackish bodily hue. Because the king of elephants, Gajendra, thought himself an ordinary animal, he thought himself unfit to see the Lord. In his humility, he thought that he could not practice yoga. In other words, how can those who are like animals in the bodily concept of life and who have no purity of consciousness practice yoga? In the present day, people who have no control over their senses, who have no understanding of philosophy, and who do not follow religious principles or rules and regulations are nonetheless pretending to be yogis. This is the greatest anomaly in the practice of mystic yoga. Yes, just like Jagannath Gopal Prabhu mentioned about this, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Lochanan from Brahma Samhita. Our eyes should be anointed with the pure love for Krishna. Only then, if we have equipped our eyes with such special gadget, can we see the can we even have vision of Lord Krishna as Shama Sundara, who is I'm just going to go up a little bit. I just want to I have it here, but 1 second. Who is mentioned here as beautiful Krishna with blackish bodily hue. So we can see that how Prabhupada is talking about the current day, what is happening with the yoga. I also liked how Prabhupada is saying in the first paragraph, in the first third line, why then do the non-devotees and atheists do not admit this? I admit this in the sense that there must be someone who has created this whole universe, this whole cosmic manifestation, and supplied its ingredients. This was easily accepted by Gajendra, king of elephants, who's an animal. But why can't the non-devotees and atheists admit this? And he says that because they do these actions as fruitive activities, which means that they expect something to happen in return. That reminds me that in our one of the 10 offenses that we regularly say before chanting every day it said that, one should not consider the chanting of the holy name to be one of the most auspicious ritualistic activities mentioned in the Vedas as fruitive activities. So for bhakti yogis, this is not possible, because when we chant, we don't consider this as a fruitive activity, which means, we do this so that we can get something. It is only because, we do this because we chant, we read, because so that we can go closer to Krishna. There should be no other motive, so to speak, unalloyed devotion. As sadhakas, we should always strive to make that as our goal, to be unalloyed in our devotion. It's not easy, but I think the process itself, will help, and by our sincere efforts, Krishna will definitely show give us the mercy to attain that. And Prabhupada also says that one must wash off this dirt by practicing bhakti yoga. It's just simple, the dirt that we have accumulated in the heart, by performing activities so that we can get something, some results, some benefit, some benediction out of it. How do we wash off this dirt that we've accumulated? By performing the fruitive activities, by practicing bhakti yoga. How do you practice bhakti yoga? It's in the by chanting the holy name out of love for the Supreme Lord, because he has created the whole world, and for us to grow in our the soul grows from being self-centric to a God-centric lifestyle. And also I liked how Prabhupada criticizes the current day practice of the so-called yoga practice. And I had a train of thought. I just I wanted to say something about the present day people who have no control over their senses, who have no understanding of philosophy, and who do not follow religious principles or rules and regulations, are nonetheless pretending to be yogis. Yes, this is very true. We should be wary of all such the so-called yogis, and steer clear of them, and follow our parampara that has been given to us by the most merciful Srila Prabhupada, and our acharyas have shown us the path that all the way leads up to Krishna. And we should always have this thread from us to our gurus, and following the parampara all the way through, and not get deviated by other forms of mystic yoga that may be initially very alluring us into something that to attain siddhis and to attain mystical powers, but then at the end it is just ends up in just caught up in our own false ego, own pride, and not going anywhere. Pretty much we just fall into the well of impersonalism, and worse is we consider ourselves to be equal to the Lord, and think that we can also achieve what achieve the state of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And one should be wary of that, and steer clear of such mystic yoga. I think it's beautifully, Prabhupada is warning us about all these dangers and pitfalls in other practices of yoga, and how he clearly says that bhakti yoga shows us the way how it needs to be done. And as always, when for the answer of course, this won't work on the neophyte devotees. The beginning stages of devotees. But instead of trying to see God, I remember this. This verse often: act in such a way that God will see you. And that is something that we can. And how do we do that? By humbly accepting that we are the servant of the servant of the servant, and just accepting whatever comes as either purification or in terms of gratitude, whether it's not, if it's not going in the way that we want it to go, it is purification. If we are getting what we wanted, it's accepting that as a blessing, and being grateful for what it's being given. And in this way, we can constantly remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Very beautiful points you brought out in each of the paragraphs. Very nicely you spoke, and you dissected every point and went deeper into them. Yeah, very, very profound points you made. And yeah, Prabhupada is very specific here about so many things, and it's really we are fortunate to be getting that. And he quotes his own song there, Tadha Rajastamo Bhava Kamalobha Dayaschaye. Sorry, it's not his own song, it's a Bhagavatam verse. Chaitayate Ranaviddam Sthitam Satve Prasidati. He quotes that in his song as well. Bodo Kripa Koile Krishna. Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji. Wonderful realizations. Anyone else has any reflections, questions?
I think
Megha
Mega.
has a question. Or
Hi, so should I go ahead?
Yeah, please, please.
Great points, like very insightful. So I have a question about the fruitive activities, like when you worship God, then you should not like ask anything. And actually that's okay, like, but then how do you prevent the superstitions? Like, so what happens, like sometimes if I do something wrong, then I'm like, okay, so I'll get punishment now. Like, so how do you prevent that? Like,
Superstitions meaning okay, if you don't do this you will suffer, like that.
like I have one like some ideal, like Nitya Mataji said, like you should act in a way like the God is seeing you. So
Yeah.
it's very scary then, like if somebody is like, and then you have set an ideal for yourself, like how you should act, but then it's not possible, like especially for a beginner like me, like I do stupid things, so like and then I feel like, okay, so since I did this, like especially in the practices, like when I'm like practicing or saying some mantra or something, like then I feel like, okay, I did this wrong, there's something bad is going to happen today. And then I'm like, okay, I should not think like that because that's like kind of stupid, or I should not do that, like in general, because that's counter like what I'm doing, like I don't want to be scared, I want to feel the love. But then how to prevent that, like it seems like the other side of the same coin, like
Yeah, very nice question actually. I would say that we have to learn to think of God as a loving parent, in the sense that just like a parent, if we commit any mistakes, the parent forgives us, or the parent might punish us also, but that punishment is out of love. So when a parent punishes a kid, it's not that the parent wants the kid to suffer and like that. The parents want the kid to improve. Okay. Like I'm a parent now. Of course, the stage hasn't come where I've had to correct my son. He's just 5 months old. But I definitely know so much that when I will correct him, at least I should aspire to correct him with love. The background has to be love, not my own, how can my son not do this? How can my son, that might, as long as it's there, it'll be a problem. But anyway, coming back to this, yeah, I guess have to learn to see Krishna as that loving parent. And even if we do commit some mistakes here and there, we can beg forgiveness to Krishna and become humble that way, because when we do commit mistakes, it is we can see it as Krishna's plan to show us that, hey, you are not perfect, don't think of yourself as perfect. So we can see that as Krishna's plan to humble us, and in that way, I guess we can go ahead. And yeah, the main thing is we should learn to see him as a loving parent. So even if we do commit a mistake, it's not like he's sitting with his stick and yeah, mistake ho gaya, chat maar do. So he's not that kind of a God. Krishna is a loving God, and through our mistakes also, he sometimes gives us very profound lessons which we can learn and go closer to him, like that. If Gaur Kumar Prabhu, Nitya Mataji, others want to add to this, please.
Yeah, I'll just, yes, Prabhu, nicely you've explained it. Yes, so Fruto activities goes two ways. One is that we do something and then we expect something in return. And the other thing is we do something bad and then we do something for atonement. I think those both ways also kind of Fruto activities in that sense. But in this, I think you're referring to the second one where we make mistakes, and in that case, how do we atone, right? I think the fact that the fact that we are even thinking about atonement itself shows that we want to better ourselves. Many people may not even be at the stage where they are ready to come to accept or agree that they have made the mistake, or that is not in the line of a good behavior or a good sadachar, so to say. And the fact that we are even thinking about atonement, that is the beauty of Krishna consciousness itself, is that it helps us to always better ourselves. It's not that we are all here we have a feather in our cap, that we're all born devotees. I mean, some of us here are born devotees, but many are not that fortunate. So we're all in a different evolutionary stage, and we all make mistakes. The beauty of it is realizing that, and as Jagannath Gopal Prabhu says, Krishna is a loving God. He's not a fearful God, and he does not want us to be fearful of him. He wants, ultimately, all he wants is our love, and he gives us a free will so that we can attain that out of our own accord and not him forcing us, right? He could have forced us, but he's very loving, and so he wants us to come to the conclusion that the loving God, loving Krishna is the supreme most eternally permanent thing, and anything else is temporary and will cause suffering in due course. And but how do we get to that stage? By making mistakes, by getting up, by waking up from the mistake, and then we'll make another mistake, and then we atone that, and we make get up, we recover from that. And it's the life full of, it's filled with such actions of making mistakes and getting over it, and making mistakes and getting over it. It's like that. That's how the learning process itself is. When the baby tries to walk, they fall many times before they can even start crawling and walking and holding onto things. So it's a natural evolution, and I think there is nothing wrong with that. But the consciousness that yes, we've made a mistake. We want to better ourselves. We want to be better individuals and better version of ourselves. And that itself is, kind of sets us apart from those who are proud, or even their false ego does not even allow them to think that they have made a mistake. I hope I'm making sense. Yeah. I think
Very
Krishna
nice.
will come on.
I'll quickly chime in there, Mataji. I think I liked your points, and I agree with them. And I'll add. I like the question too. The question was very insightful because on the one hand, we talk about fruitive activities, and actually Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita also says that there are 4 types of devotees: Arti, Artharthi, Jignasu, Jnani. So we have to gradually evolve. In the beginning, I may go to the temple just before my exam and say, "Oh God, help me pass this exam." So that's a natural evolution. So only slowly you'll go ahead. Or I may go to God and say, "Oh God, protect me from this illness." So Krishna also describes that people do go through these phases. Nobody becomes a jnani right in the beginning. We all go through gradual evolution process. So it's a very accommodating thing. And the other point that you made about making mistakes and how do we see that, His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu nicely uses a very simple framework. He says 3 things: intent, content, and consequence. So even if by mistake we make some mistakes, if our intent is good, Krishna can see through this. The Lord can see through this because he knows not only our action, but he also knows our intent behind the action. And like Nitya Mataji said, he also knows that we have that we are repenting about it and we want to correct ourselves. So he obviously he knows all this. So he definitely sees the intent. He sees the content of the action also, and he sees the consequence of the action as well. So it's a forgiving, as Jagannath Gopal Prabhu said, he's a very forgiving Lord, and forgiving, almost like a forgiving father, which ties back to what Gaur Kumar Prabhu said in the previous verse, that he's all knowing and he's all loving. Just thought I'll share that, Mataji. Hope it makes sense.
Beautiful. Thank you, Nitya Mataji, Krishnan Prabhu. Megha Mataji, is that okay? Do you have?
Yeah, that was wonderful. Like very, very great answers. Like, especially yours, like that resonates. Like it's a loving parent, like not like with a stick. So very insightful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay, so if there are no other reflections on this one, we'll move to 28. And one more thing I had noticed that these 26 and 27 are so poetic. Yoga randhita karmano riddhi yoga vibhavite yogino yam prapashyanti yogesham tam natosmyam. And then here also 26 also was Soham Vishwasrijam Vishwam Avishwam Vishwavedasam Vishwatmanam Ajam Brahma Pranatosmi Parampadam. Anyway. Yeah, 28. Karan Prabhu, please.
Yes. Namo Namastubhyam Asharshvega Shakti Traya Shakhiri Digune Prapanna Palaya Turanta Saktaye Kad Indriyanam Ana Vapya Vartvane. Translation: My Lord, you are the controller of formidable strength
in three kinds of energy. You appear as the reservoir of all sense pleasure and the protector of the surrendered souls. You possess unlimited energy, but you are unapproachable by those who are unable to control their senses. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you again and again. Purport. Attachment, greed, and lust are three formidable forces that prevent one from concentrating upon the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These forces act because the Supreme Lord does not like to be realized by non devotees and atheists. However, when one surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Lord, these impediments are withdrawn and one can realize the Supreme Personality of God. Therefore, the Lord is the protector of the surrendered soul. One cannot become a devotee until one surrenders unto the Lord's lotus feet. Then the Lord gives one the intelligence from within by which one can return home back to Godhead.
Any reflections, Prabhuji?
Yeah. So, uh, one thing is very wonderful here that that as soon as we surrender to Krishna, Krishna takes away the impediments that are there in the path, and he gives one the intelligence from within by which one can return to him. So, just like I think also to add to what Megha was saying earlier, that we cannot, that we do something mistakes, we are trying to improve ourselves, but we do not have the strength. I have found often times that when I try to overcome my lower natures or by my own strength, I always fail. But when I take shelter of the Lord and I pray that I do not have the strength, please you give me the strength. And then I see that when I'm surrendered, then that impediment I'm able to overcome. So this very wonderful Prabhupada is mentioning here.
Beautiful, Karan Prabhu. Thank you so much for that reflection. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. So when our worship is priti purvakam, when our spiritual practice is priti purvakam, that time Krishna gives us the buddhi or intelligence to come closer to him, as you mentioned, Karan Prabhu. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's Krishna's top priority is how we can come closer to him. And whatever he does in our life is to kind of impel us to go closer to him. Although we might not realize that in our present situation, but yeah, that is his ultimate aim, actually. So yeah, and that's for each and every soul that Krishna wants them to come closer to him. So thank you so much. Any other reflections from anyone on this?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So I have a question based on this, excuse me, and the previous conversations that we were having and pertaining to Nitya Kishori Mataji's point. So most of the times it's like, I also feel like when we are trying to practice devotee, there are situations where we live a double life because um, we are trying to practice one particular kind of consciousness, but then we are all either working or studying or interacting with the rest of the society in any way, and even with our own family, and then what we have to display there is something very different. So most of the time it's very difficult to s- to to switch these levels, and it's also like most of my time is at work or somewhere else, which is not really like the right kind of consciousness. So are there any like practical ways to revive the consciousness or reset ourselves often during the day?
Yeah, that's a very nice question and practical question, and it can be But on multiple levels, definitely. We have to do what we have to do in our professions and everything. That's what I feel. And then it's the material world. So if someone wins, then someone else loses. That is bound to happen. So today, actually, our company laid off 4,000 people. So it was like a huge, everyone was in anxiety throughout the day. And then I was just thinking how this is that, as a devotee, we don't want to be in a rat race, but then somehow we are put in the situation where we have to try to prove our worth. And if we prove our worth, then somebody else is, ranked lower than us. Or if somebody else is higher than us, then we are ranked lower, right? So I guess that's how that's the law of the material world. That's how it works. And then that's how it was for even Arjuna in that sense, because it was the thing was either he dies fighting or he kills the enemy and emerges as the ruler. But then the wonderful thing that he did was he did it as a service to Krishna, and of course he had Krishna's instruction directly, so he was directly doing it for Krishna. But in our case, we can at least think that there is a purport in Bhagavad Gita. I forget which verse, but towards the end, I think. So there Prabhupada writes that we should understand that whatever situation we are in right now is because of Krishna's will. And because it is Krishna's will that I am in this situation, I should work hard and I should do my best in this situation. So that way, even when we, in our careers, when we do something, of course, we don't, it's not a hook or crook thing, but even having that passion to do well in our professions or in our academia or academic careers, it is not wrong per se. If we do it, in the background that, hey, Krishna has put me here and I have to do this. So yeah, and in such situations, that skill is what is going to help us, because even when Arjuna was fighting, it was his knowledge of shastra that he had gained from Dronacharya that was actually in use, but then he was using it for the will of Krishna. So similarly, we can try to see how we can align as much as possible with Krishna's will, and for us, at least, we should try to do it in the right consciousness that Krishna, I'm doing this for you, and not just thinking I'm doing this for you, but even, offering our fruits to Krishna. That way we slowly get purified, I feel. Yeah, but there are so many ways this can be answered. I'll let others chime in.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. I think that was very insightful for me.
Can I add something?
Yes, Mataji, please.
So just recently, we were just watching the Prabhupada memories, where Siddhanta Prabhu has compiled over 400. He interviewed 400 disciples, like over 400 disciples of direct disciples of Prabhupada, and they all go through their memories with Prabhupada. And one such thing we were watching was with His Grace Mahatma Prabhu. And this happened back in 1970s when he was like in the probably 20s, early 20s or late 20s, I'm not sure. And so he was appointed as a temple president, and he was asking, and there was a lot of work as a temple president. You have to manage a lot of things. And something similar to what you're saying, like that, it requires a lot of work. Even though he was working inside the temple, the lot of this management activities have got nothing to do, or literally little to do with Krishna, Krishna related activities, right? Of course, it's like a lot of managerial administrative work. And he was writing to Prabhupada saying that he is not having time to be Krishna conscious, to be thinking of Krishna. And because he is immersed in a lot of work, he has no time to think of Krishna. So his question to Prabhupada was, is it better to not to engage in direct service to Krishna so that he can directly think about Krishna, or should he do this work and don't worry about it, right? So he was, of course, he was expecting some direct response from Prabhupada saying, no, you chant, it's okay. Let somebody else handle the management work. You can do more chanting is need, you can do more chanting. Or he'll say, doing this management work is like a service to Krishna. You can do that. He didn't say neither of it. Prabhupada said that the problem that you're not thinking about Krishna while you're working, even though the work is not directly related to Krishna, is because you're thinking you're performing, making those decisions, you're performing those activities. But whenever you make a decision in, let's say, in managerial post, or let's say in your field of work, robotics work, let's say you cracked a code, some code is working, your program is working, or just attribute that success to Krishna. Krishna, thank you for giving me the intelligence to do this. Just in a practical sense, that's it's like adding Krishna to whatever we are doing, right? And not taking the whole credit to ourselves. So in this way, we constantly are thinking Krishna. And even if something goes wrong, oh Krishna, tell me what should I do now? Or having a constant conversation or constant engagement. I think Lekha, you're already a pro at this. You always talk to your deities and stuff, so it comes natural for you. So I don't have to say it. But does that make sense? I don't know.
No, for sure, Mother. Actually, um, this really struck a chord in my heart because recently I've been also having some issues with my team. Like there's just like too much politics going on. So I'm not at peace when I'm like working as well. And I think what you said really helps because um and I do sort out to Krishna, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to handle the situation? Do I fight or flight? Like, what is my position? So I think what you said is it's something that I should like meditate upon every day before I think I start my work. And you're right, because I think when I do things, I think I'm assuming that I am doing this, and I'm running this task, and which is why I think this question even came up in my mind, like how do I keep Krishna in my mind when I'm working. But you're right, like he has given this task, and he has put me in this situation for this specific task. So um really thank you for reminding me of that. And I think it's a good takeaway point for today.
Yeah, I'll quickly chime in there. I just shared an interview that Gaur Gopal, His Grace Gaur Gopal Prabhu has done for the New Year's. And somebody has asked him the exact same question that you asked. So it's worthwhile. It's towards the end. It's a nice interview. You can listen to the whole interview. But towards the end, somebody asked him the exact same question that you asked, and he gives a fairly comprehensive answer there too. So you can listen to that as well.
Yeah, for sure, Prabhu. Thank you very much for sharing that.
I put it in the Life of Devotion group.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you, Prabhu.
and His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu has also answered this question a few times. This similar question, I think he's been asked a couple of times, and if I find the article in a Spiritual Scientist, I'll post it there too. I remember reading his answer.
Yeah, thank you very much, Krishnan Prabhu.
Megha Mataji, you have some reflections, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say what I do. Like, I am a baby in Krishna consciousness, but I am on third chapter. So this verse came, right? Like, don't be attached to the results, and uh, every result is like deliver it onto me. So I mean, I heard in a lecture that the results are like prasad. So prasad, when we accept, it's like very like what do you say, very submissive position, and then you can't demand. Ideally, you should not demand like what you're getting, and you accept that. So when my code is not working, that's what I do. I just accept that I'm like such a small person, like, and I'll do whatever I can do, and whatever is the outcome is like prasad, and and that actually helps, like, sometimes.
Yeah, thank you, Megha. Actually, that's a yeah. I'll definitely try because I think most of the times things don't work than they work, and it's a very nice thought to have. Think about it as something that's given to us. Thank you all for your sharing your insights.
Vrinda Gopi Mataji, you have something to say.
Yeah, Prabhu, just a little one. So first of all, very relatable question and such amazing answers. And one thing that really helps, or at least it helps me, is like how you think of weekends, right? So your work week, you just think you're just waiting for weekend. At least I'm waiting for it. So same.
Everyone is.
Yeah.
So I think what has recently worked very nicely is that, because I was thinking exactly at this time, like last Wednesday, that we are spending 8 to 10 hours with our colleagues, and which is very draining. It's not at least spiritually enriching or even overall it's very draining. So you can just tell yourself that I'm going through this so that whatever time I or whatever I earn, like after work, you get to do your services or before, whatever. So I think forward to basically tell yourself, let me go through it. How horrible is it? Or even sometimes it's nice. So many times it's nice. Whatever it is, let me go through it, because after that I'll get to do something that I like. So, and I like, I mean, your KC activity. We're just talking to one of the devotees over phone. So I think that just enriches you, and you just look forward to it. Yeah. So I think just go through it, let it go, get over it, and that's that.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Brinda. I think it's also like because of this work, you're able to practice your consciousness, your Krishna consciousness, peacefully without having to worry for basic essentials. So that's a really nice thought. Thank you for sharing that.
Before we move on to the next one, I wanted to share this. This is the purport I was talking about. So this is the verse, Yatha pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmana tam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. Okay, this is a translation. And in the second paragraph, if you see here, everyone should think that he's engaged in a particular type of occupation by Rishikesha, the master of the senses. Because in our occupational duty, we use our senses, right? So Prabhupada writes here that he's engaged in a particular type of occupation by Rishikesha, the master of senses. And by the result of the work in which one is engaged, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, should be worshipped. If one thinks in this way, in full Krishna consciousness, then by the grace of the Lord, he becomes fully aware of everything. That is the perfection of life. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 12.3, Tesham aham samudharta. The Supreme Lord himself takes charge of delivering such a devotee. That is the highest perfection of life. In whatever occupation one may be engaged, if he serves the Supreme Lord, he will achieve the highest perfection. So, yeah, when I read this purport, I was like, nice. So now I can do my coding nicely also. I can be competitive, but at the same time, be competitive in a good way. Not be competitive means I'll try to pull my peers down, not that competition, that kind of, but I can be competitive in the sense that I can do my best and I can think that I'm being engaged in this particular occupation by Krishna and I should do it well and offer the results to him.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this, Prabhu. 18.46. Thank you very much.
I'll put this on the chat as well.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
So one devotee had asked me this question long ago. That time I had found this and I had sent it to him as well. But yeah. Okay. So that's that. So yeah, if nothing else on this one, then we'll move on to chat. Okay, Karan Prabhu, Hari Bol. Yes, 29. Vrinda Gopi Mataji, do you want to read?
I can actually try the
Oh, okay. The Sanskrit you will try, or
So 8.3.29. Nayam Veda Swayam Atmanam Yachakyaham Dhyatam Tam Duryatyatam Mahatmayam Bhagavatam Ito Asmeyaham. Translation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose illusionary energy the Jiva, whose part and parcel of God, forgets his real identity because of the bodily concept of life. I take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose glories are difficult to understand. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, every living entity, regardless of whether he be human, demigod, animal, bird, bee, or whatever, is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord and the living entity are intimately related like father and son. Unfortunately, because of material contact, the living entity forgets this and wants to enjoy the material world independently, according to his own plan. This illusion, Maya, is very difficult to surmount. Maya covers the living entity because of his willingness to forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead and make his own plan to enjoy this material world. As long as this contamination continues, the conditioned soul will be unable to understand his real identity and will perpetually continue under illusion, life after life. Ato Graha Kshetra Sutapa Vitej Janayasa Moyam Aham Mamyati Bhagavatam 5.5.8. As long as the living entity is not enlightened that he may understand his real position, he will be attracted to materialistic life, to house, country, or field, to society, sons, family, community, bank, balance, and so on. Covered by all this, he will continue to think, I am this body, and everything related to this body is mine. The materialistic conception of life is extremely difficult to surmount, but one who surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Gajendra did, the king of elephants, comes to the enlightenment on the Brahmana platform. Brahma Bhuta Prashannatmana Sochitina Kamshati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Madbhaktin Labhate Param. One who is transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards all living entities. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. BG 18.54. Since a devotee is completely on the Brahman platform, he is not jealous of any other living entity. Sanha Sarveshu Bhuteshu. Okay, reflections. I think the first part will be the fact that, like in the translation, it's written that from Krishna's illusionary energy, we tend to forget him, like we tend to forget our real identity. And what was that? I think shelter. So, I mean, when you read it, when I just read it earlier for the first time, I was like, but why would Krishna want that? But then when we read the purport, we understand it's not that Krishna wants that. It's just that we are so much, into our own things and all that's described here, like the Maya part and the material contamination, that we are very much prone or vulnerable to that illusionary energy affecting us. So that's one thing that Krishna doesn't want that to happen. But again, because he gives us the free will, so because of that, we do get attached to everything. And one other thing that I was just thinking of while reading is, what is it? Basically, yeah, I mean, it's written that, we are attached to so many things, and like bank balance, house, this, that, and everything related to this body is mine and all these things. So which, I mean, that is what we all are like striving to always, overcome. And at least, of course, me, I haven't done any of it, didn't overcome any of it. So, but I think just a little thing that again helps is even in this situation, like even if we feel that we are attached to our so-called possessions and whatsoever, I think then we can again just pray to Krishna humbly. Because I'll give my example. Like I love traveling, and but the other day, but sometimes you feel it gets overwhelming or I'm doing too much of it. Then I'll just end up praying to Krishna that okay, maybe just reduce this whole intensity of my desire to travel, and so you can just pray to him, and then something comes up, or like a service comes up, a festival, and it works out, and then honestly, genuinely, at the end of the day, I see whether it's we as humans or like we as part and parcel of the Lord, although we might not want to start the spiritual activity, but after doing both the activities, we'll always feel much more fulfilled after the spiritual one. So like after reading this, the fact that we should stay away or we should try to control our material desires, I think just one of the things that would help or two is praying and remembering how we'll feel after doing the right thing. Like how we know we don't want to, some people, we might think that we don't want to work out, but we know how we feel after working out. Similarly, just remembering the feel good factor after doing the spiritual activities. So yeah, that is just that.
Very beautiful, Mataji. Very beautiful realizations. And yeah, that is, we have to understand that at some point, that the spiritual activities are really blissful. Like we say, in a poison in the beginning and nectar in the end. That's the nature of spiritual activities, and material activities are like nectar in the beginning and poison in the end, right? So like that, yeah. I mean, even like um Aishwarya and I, we love to go on roller coasters and everything. Of course, now we can't go because of Pritu and everything. And then, so yeah, it's like, it's a very nice thing to pray to reduce the intensity of our desires. And yeah, I try to, whenever I go on roller coasters, I try to think, that this thrill that is there, if I can experience this same thrill when I read Krishna's pastimes or when I hear Katha, then it will be so much better, and the level of happiness that I might experience is much, much better. And plus it will, rekindle my love for the Lord, right? So that is actually the difference between somebody who is very pure and somebody who is still struggling. That the person who is pure, they, whatever they want in life, all those desires are fulfilled in Krishna's connection, in connection with Krishna. So they feel that, they really feel that thrill, when, like when Rukmini is being kidnapped by Krishna, and, Rukmi is chasing Krishna from behind, and, Balaram is there, Krishna is there, they are going, and then they are simultaneously fighting and this and that, there is a thrill in that. And the more we get taste in that thrill, instead of these other temporary kind of thrills, that's something I wanted to share as well. So, but yeah, at least if we can pray that, reduce the intensity, at least we are accepting that, yes, I have this desire and somehow I feel like fulfilling it. But Krishna, dear Krishna, please, help me with it. So Krishna will definitely reciprocate. Thank you so much, Mataji. Any other reflections? Okay, so let's go to the last one for today. Karan Prabhu, I think he left. So if anyone would like to volunteer, or, oh, sorry, Nitya Mataji is there. Sorry, we are round robining. So yeah, Mataji, please.
Yes, bro. Sri Sukha Uvacha Evam Gajendram Upavarnita Nirvisesham Brahma Deyo Vividalinga Bidam Bimanaha Naite Yedo Pasasarpur Nikilatmavat makhatvar tatra kilamaramayo hariravish avirashit. Translation. Sukadeva Goswami continued, when the king of the elephants was describing the supreme authority without mentioning any particular reason, he did not invoke the demigods headed by Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Indra, and Chandra. Thus, none of them approached him. However, because Lord Hari is a super soul, Purushottama, the personality of Godhead, he appeared before Gajendra. Purport. From the description of Gajendra, he apparently was aiming at the supreme authority, although he did not know who the supreme authority is. He conjectured, there is a supreme authority who is above everything. Under the circumstances, the Lord's various expansions, such as Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Chandra, and Indra, all thought Gajendra is not asking our help. He is not asking the help of the Supreme, who is all above all of us. As Gajendra has described, the Supreme Lord has various parts and parcels, including the demigods, human beings, and animals, all covered by separate forms. Although the demigods are in charge of maintaining different aspects of the universe, Gajendra thought that they were unable to rescue him. Harim Veena Naiva Mritim Taranti. No one can rescue anyone from the dangers of birth, death, old age, and disease. It is only the Supreme Personality of Godhead who can rescue one from the dangers of material existence. Therefore, an intelligent person who, to get free from this dangerous existence, approaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not any demigod, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:20. Kamais taistar hrita janaha prapadyanti nya devatai. Those who are unintelligent approach the various demigods for temporary material benefits. Actually, however, these demigods cannot rescue the living entity from the dangers of material existence. Like other living entities, the demigods are merely external parts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's transcendental body. As stated in the Vedic mantras, Saatma Angani Anya Devataha. Within the body of the Atma, the soul, within the body is the Atma, the soul, whereas the various parts of the body, like the hands and legs, are external. Similarly, the Atma of the entire cosmic manifestation is Narayana, Lord Vishnu, and all the demigods, human beings, and other living entities are parts of his body. It may also be concluded that since a tree lives on the strength of its root, and when the root is nourished with water, all parts of the tree are nourished, one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the original root of everything. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very difficult to approach, he is very near to us because he lives within our hearts. As soon as the Lord understands that one is seeking his favor by fully surrendering, naturally, he immediately takes action. Therefore, although the demigods did not come to the aid of Gajendra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead immediately appeared before him because of his fervent prayer. This does not mean that the demigods were angry with Gajendra, for actually, when Lord Vishnu is worshipped, all other demigods are also worshipped. Yasmin taste jagat tushta. If the Supreme Personality of God is satisfied, everyone is satisfied. Yata taror mula nischenanena triptyanti tat skanda Bujo Pashakaha Prano Porachak cha Yatendriyanam Tataiva Sarvahanam Achyuteja. As pouring water on the root of the tree energizes the trunk, branches, twigs, and everything else, and as supplying food to the stomach enlivens the senses and limbs of the body, so simply worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead through devotional service automatically satisfies the demigods who are parts of that Supreme Personality. Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam 4:31-14. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped, all the demigods are satisfied. Yeah, so I mean, this is the watering the root of the tree. It's we keep hearing very often, and we hear, Prabhupada has mentioned how Gajendra did not call out to the demigods for help. He did not call out Brahma, come and help me, or Shiva, come and help me. But when Gajendra says the supreme authority, without mentioning any person, which means that is the is a supreme authority. There's only one supreme authority, one supreme personality of Godhead. So everybody else, all the other demigods, know immediately that, you know, it's not them that they should respond. It's not them that the Gajendra is calling out for. It's their Lord. And so by doing this, Prabhupada is nicely connected that to the watering the root of the tree. When the root is nourished, all the parts of the tree, the branch, the twigs, the leaves, everything gets nourished and it produces good fruits. And you know, we hear this many times that where we should go to the root of the problem to try to fix it. And by fixing the symptoms of the problem, we only see that the problems keep coming back again and again. In case of anything, we have to go to the root. So similarly, even in our Krishna consciousness, it's very vital that we always look at the essence, that root, that which holds everything, that which is the source of everything. And if we catch that essence and then apply it, you know, in our day-to-day lives, then our rest of the aspects of our lives automatically gets set right, because the root, the essence, is captured and nourished and protected, and so we feel the rest of the aspects of our life feel energized. I think in this respect, I think I just remember what Gaur Kumar Prabhu always says, you know, when we are having the Vyasa Puja of Radhanath Swami. He says this nicely, but I'll try to phrase what he said. So at one point when we were not having enough funds to, you know, do the proceed the day-to-day activities of the temple, we approached Radhanath Swami to say, okay, you know, how is there any way Maharaj can help with the monetarily through some devotee who can donate for the, you know, for the cost of the temple. And so immediately Radhanath Swami asked, so how much are you allocating for the deities, you know? And we said that the deities are being allocated the least because for the well functioning of the temple, we need to have a good boiler system that heats up the whole temple. We need to pay off the bills so that we have the electricity up and running for all the programs, and we were giving a huge list. But then we were allocating the least amount of money for the upkeep of the deities department. And so he said that, just try to focus to give a lot more Lakshmi, like funding for the deities department, so that, and that's all he said. He never mentioned that this will be the solution, or this will enable the other things to grow. None of that. So by just following his direction, we eventually got funding, from nowhere as a miracle, for the other departments. I mean, this is this one could see this as a one-off activity or something that doesn't happen all the time, but with the faith we can see that that this does happen when we put focus on what really matters, right? Every other aspect goes in the background and eventually gets nourished, even though we don't put direct effort into its nourishment. That's not to say that we have to just sit and keep chanting the whole day, and so our bodies will be healthy and stuff. No, it's not like that. It's where our focus is. If we are always going after our mind and doing things, whatever we think about frivolously, whatever the mind conjures up, or are we really thinking, okay, how am I aligning myself to my spiritual being, to my spiritual calling? Is what I'm doing right now is spiritually there yet? So it's in every day-to-day life. In New York City, it's so passionate. It's a mode of passion everywhere. In the light turns green. If we don't hit the accelerator immediately, you will hear like many honks from the cars behind us. They are so impatient, so this thing. And one wrong move, one wrong thing, you will get, you'll hear so many swear words. And it's very difficult. And when we are put into this situation, we tend to also react in the same way. And at that point, we can catch ourselves and say, what am I doing? Is it spiritually orienting myself? Why am I getting angry at something that I'm not even going to be bothered about in few hours from now, right? So why am I yelling at some person who did not move in a decent period of time, and I won't even thinking about it in like an hour later? So why am I putting so much effort into getting angry with somebody? And it's very easy to get caught up in the mode of passion around here, especially in New York City. But it's a constant alignment of how we can get back to that it's getting back in alignment to our spiritual existence. What we did in the 2 hours of meditation, mantra meditation in the morning, how we can get back to that consciousness throughout the rest of the 22 hours in our lives, in our day. Yeah, I think I don't know if I deviated a lot on this, but I thought I'll just share this.
No, you didn't deviate at all, Mataji. This is really nice. We should align our whole existence towards Krishna so that all aspects of our life will fall in place. So yeah, very profound point. Thank you so much. Yeah. Any other reflections? I made notes of whatever we discussed. I might have missed some things, but I'll post it on the group so everyone can just revise and go through what we discussed today. So any other reflections or comments, questions?
Thank you so much, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu, for leading such a wonderful session with so many practical applications. So next week, Vrinda Gopi Mataji won't be able to lead the session. So Jagannath Gopal Prabhu, if you're okay to lead one more time and finish off this chapter, that will be very much appreciated. And we are looking for 4 readers for next week. So if anybody can sign up, please do. And thank you all so much. It's been such a nourishing journey reading Gajendra's surrender and his prayers for shelter. This particular section that we read is about Gajendra's prayer for shelter, and Jagannath Gopal Prabhu covered it wonderfully. Thank you. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.